Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing a deep dive into Linux users and groups. This is one of those fundamental admin topics you must know: how to create users, set their home directory, add people to groups, like and delete account, and customize the default for environment. I will show you commands, configuration file, and some demo and best practice, so by the end you will be able to manage users in any Linux environment confidently. So let's jump in. So we have a user. A user is just an account identity. In Linux, a user is more than just a name. It's a full identity with system level implication. And some of the key attributes of a user account in Linux are: we have the username, we have the user ID, which is your ID, which is a number used by the system, and then we have the home directory, and then the shell, whichever one that they use. Why does that matter? Every file and process is owned by user. User identity determine access right, environment variable, and audit shell. So in Linux, you have a couple of important files that we should be aware of when it comes to creating users. And the first one is the etc pwd. So let's take a look at that. Let's do cat etc pwd. Okay, so these are all users account, and some of them are system account, but this is where when you first create an account, it's gonna be. Let me make it smaller so you guys can see it. Maybe that's too small. Okay, so there you go. So my username is this one, Teddy C, and then we have an X, number, and a couple of fields, and we will see what each of those fields means. So this is the format. We have the username, the X, UID, GID, which is stand for group, and user ID, a comment if there's one, the home directory, and a shell. So just like I mentioned, so that we have the user, which is the login name, that will be Teddy. In case with mine it's Teddy C. The X is the placeholder for the password, because we don't see it. This is not where the password is saved. And then we have the UID, which is, for example, 1001. Mine is 1000. And then we have the group ID, which is also a number. Mine is also the same, which is 1000. And then we have a comment, which is cyber. And then the home directory, which is home .c. And then the shell that I'm using, which is bin bash. And then we have multiple. We have multiple shells that we can choose from. So if we take a look at this, take it shells. So this is all the shell in the system. We have shell, bash, or bash. I think that's in for reverse Bourne shell. I'm not sure, but in this system, this is all the shell that we have, and you can choose from. So if I type echo and then shell, it should let me know which shell I'm using. So I'm using bash Bourne shell. This is what I'm using. Okay, so let's keep moving. So like I mentioned before, this is an example. So 30x is the password, the placeholder for the password. We have the UID, group ID, 30, the home directory, and then the shell that the user is using. So important tips when it comes to editing the etc file: it is recommended to use vi password to edit that file. I don't know if I have that installed in this system. vpwd. Oh yes, I do. So if I type it, it's gonna say permission denied, couldn't like file, and then password, the file is unchanged. So this is, so if I do, let's do vpw. No, oh, I need sudo. What am I doing? I need sudo. If I do sudo, put my password, so it's gonna open a file editor, and then you can edit, you can change things, put whatever you want there, but it's not recommended, so I'm not gonna do any changing. So I'm just gonna press Ctrl X to exit out, and then it let me know the file is on change. So let's take a look at the another important file that we have, which is the shadow file. Let's do cat. Let me clear the screen first. Clear. Let's do cat etc shadow. Oh, permission denied. Sudo can only view that file, so let me put sudo cat etc shadow. Okay, so shadow is where the password for all the users are stored, and they are being stored in hash form. So for example, let's take a look at mine, 30C. So this is the format that it is in. So this is the password. It's pretty long actually. It's very long. So, but since you can see all the other field, because the hash is taking everything, so I have it here for you guys, so you can see what all the box mean. So we have my name, Teddy, and then the hash, this is $6, which indicates the SHA-512 hash algorithm, and then the hash format. But you guys don't see the other field in here, but there will be a last change day since when password was last changed. We have a minimum date between password change, max, warning day, inactive, and expired. It's the same thing. This file can also be edited, and it's recommended to use the pw-s to safely edit this, the shadow file. So the last file that we're gonna take a look is the group. So if I clear the screen and I do cat etc group, oops, and these are the groups that I have in the system. As you can see, there's a lot of them. I did not create all of them. All of these were created when the system was created, but my username, when I was creating my account from the very first, when I was setting up everything, username, there's always a group that is associated with your username, and it is 30C. So this is the format for this. So in case you guys want to know, first you have the group name. Same thing, we have an X, which is for group password, if you want to set up a password for the group. The GID, the number, that's what it stands for, and then the member. So let me see, mine. Oops, nope, that's not mine. This is mine. So this is the username, placeholder for the password, 1000 is for the GID, and then the member, but it's not showing. Okay, so we have a couple of more files that we need to take a look at before we get to actually creating users and get to create stuff. So let me clear the screen. We have a file that's called the skeleton directory. So let's go take a look at that with cat etc. Oops. Oh, I need to be in it. So let's do cd etc scale. If I do ls, there's nothing in. No, let me do ls-la to. Okay, so we have a couple of things in there, but they are all hidden. So typically inside of the scale directory, anything you put in here when you're creating a user everything in here will automatically get put inside of the user home directory you just created. So for example, all of these, if I create a user with the user add-m, all of these will be inside of the user home directory but hidden. So let's say you wanted to create a user with a specific folder, you can put it in here. So every time you create a specific user, that folder will get created also in the home directory. So this is what the scale directory is for. It's like a template for when you're using the user add-m flag. And then we have user add, which is another very important file. So let's take a look at that. If I do cat etc default user add, okay, so this, everything in here is commented except for shell, which is the shell that when you create a user that they will automatically get assigned to, which is the bin ch shell. So what is this file? This file is what get used when you create a user by default, but because everything is commented, they're not being used except for the shell one. So for an example, you can put, so anything you put in there when you're creating a user, they will get created with exactly whatever you put in there. So these file, the user add and the scale file, are two different files. This one is mostly related to, let's say you wanted every folder, no, every user you created to have a specific text file inside of the home directory. Let's say welcome, welcome, don't use this computer to do anything bad. So, and then you put that file in the scale directory. So now every time you create a user, they will automatically get that specific file in their home directory. But the user add, that file is different. This one is, let's say you wanted to, every time you create a user, you want them to have a specific group ID. This is where you will put it. You want everyone to have to use bin bash. For the shell, you want people to have a specific home directory. So this is where you will put that in here. So when you create a user, they all will get assigned bin bash as the shell, or a specific home directory you want everyone to have, whatever the case may be. So let's keep moving. So so now, since you can, as you can see, everything in here is commented except for the shell equal bin bash. But if you want to see when you create a user, what do they actually, what is active or what is being used to create the user account, I should say. Let me click this. Let me do, I think, user add -d. So perfect. So this is the active file that whenever you create a user, they all get assigned to. So they will get assigned a group with 100 something. They will get created with a home directory and active. The account is not gonna get expired. Everyone is getting assigned bin login. So this is, so but whatever you, so for example, let's say I wanted to change something in there, it will automatically get edited in the user add file also. Okay, so these are some important files that everyone should know. Well, we have more actually. We have the login.def, which is dictate login and password policies when it comes to creating users. So let's take a look at that one also. Let's see, login.dfs. So pretty much this is also the same thing. Everything in here is commented, so none of them, most of the stuff in here are not being put to use, and the one that are being put to use doesn't really have much impact on user login and stuff like that. So for example, let's scroll down let's go down. So for example, we have the UMass, which is being set in here, which is 22. I talked about that in the last video. So as you can see, password max day, this is never gonna happen. So password warning edge, this is never gonna come to pass, because this is a lot. I don't know, I'm probably not gonna be alive by the time this is come to pass. So most of this stuff, they're not being used. That's why when you create a user in Linux, if you don't set something reasonable in here, your user account will never get expired. They will never ask you to change password. Everything will just stay as is. Yeah, pretty much everything in here is commented. I mean, most of the important things that should not be commented or comment. But later on in this video, I will show you guys how to set expiration date, warning date, max password age, etc., etc. So now let's get to create a user. So when it comes to Linux, we have two ways of creating creating user. We have user add. We have add user, and then we have user add. The difference between the two is that add user is interactive. So let me go back. I'm gonna create two user using both comment. So let me do sudo add user. I'm gonna add Stanley. As you can see, it's adding a user. It's selecting a UID energy group ID from that range, adding a new group Stanley. Like I mentioned, every time you create a new user, a group also get created with it. It adding a user, it adding a home directory, which is home Stanley, and then it copying file from etc scale. So so I'm gonna show you guys something. Let me quickly do this, and then I'm gonna create a user. So as you can see, user add is very interactive. It's gonna ask me for full name. So let me put this room number. Let's use 901. I'm not gonna put anything in. Nope. Yes. Now I have a new user. So now if I go here, cat pwsd, now I have a new user called Stanley, which get 1001 user ID, 1001 group name, C901. That's the home. That's the room number or whatever that. I think that was the room number, which is not important. We have his home directory, and then shell, which is bin bash, and it is the same thing if I type group. Nope, if I type oops, nope. Yep, so there you go. Stanley, a group for Stanley also get created when you create a user. And then if I also visit Etsy shadow, oops, I forgot, sudo, there you go. Stanley also have his name and his password being saved over here as well. Now thinking about it, I don't even remember what password did I set for him, but I can always remove him. So when you use that command, this is the thing that it asks for. It create a home .30. So I'm pretty sure you guys remember when I show you guys this directory, which is scale, and I do there was nothing in there. So now if I do cd home, list Stanley is there. If I click on my, well, I mean, I'm not gonna click on my name because it's me. So if I go into my name, Teddy C, and I do ls, as you can see, I have album, desktop, documents, music. But if I do the same thing for Stanley, let me do sudo. Let me see. Well, let me do sudo. Let me do. Come on. Did I put the wrong password? Okay, let's do cd. Oh. Let's see this Stanley. Okay, so let me clear the screen. So as you can see, because when a user is getting created, they copy everything from scale into the home directory, and since there was nothing in there, and then if I go into Stanley home and I press ls, I press enter, I don't see nothing. But if I press ls-la, these are the same hidden file that was in scale. So now let me do let me use a del Stanley home exit clear ls cd home ls. Let me remove his username real quick. Let me do sudo. Let me do Stanley. Let me do okay, Stanley no longer exists in the system. So now let me go back. Let me go into here. Let's do cd etc scale. So let me create a couple of folders in here. Let me create mk desktop, documents, download, and I need sudo. Come on, let me do sudo. Okay, perfect. So now let me go inside documents. So nothing in there. Let me do touch. Policy. Oh, keep fighting sudo. Policy. Now let me do sudo gedit policy. Let me quickly do preference font. Okay. Let me make this bigger, 16. Let me choose this. Exit. Okay, let me do welcome. Please don't do anything stupid. 1 2 3 4, and then I'm gonna save. I save this. Exit cat sudo cat policy. Okay, so don't do anything stupid. Let's go back. Okay, so now let me create Stanley again. What was the command I used? Let me create Stanley. Where's Stanley groups? Okay, yes, sudo add user Stanley. Let's add Stanley again. Perfect. Let me create a password for him. Full name Stanley C, room number 901, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Nothing. Yes, correct. So now we have a new user. Perfect. Now let's check out again his home directory. Sudo s Now let's do cd home Stanley. As you can see, you see the thing that I put in the scale directory, they here. So now if I go into directory, the policy file that I created should be in there. ls, there you go, policy. If I do cat policy welcome, please don't do anything stupid. So like I mentioned before, anything you put in the scale directory, whenever you create a user, everything in there will be included inside of that user directory. So if I do, let me look at his information. Well, I don't need to be in his folder to do that. Let me exit as the cat pwd, oops, pwd Stanley. So he's using bash. Stanley is his home phone number that I said, comment, etc, etc. So that is one way we can add user into the system, which is with the user add, which is very interactive. As you can see, it asks me a bunch of questions and then that's it. The other way we can add user, that was what user, oh, add user, I said add user add. We have a user add which is universal and is very scriptable. So meaning I have Linux, I'm using Linux Mint. I also have Debian here. This will work in all of them. So let me create another user. Oops. What did I do? I did something. Let's go down. What did I do? Okay, we are here. Okay, let me create another user. Let me clear this screen. Actually, let me go into Debian for this one so I can show you guys. It should still be the same thing. Where were we? Let me clear this. Let's scroll down. Let's go. Okay, perfect. We are here. Add user add. So wait, do I have user add in here? Please. I don't know why I don't have user add and I can't. Let me see, is it because I'm not using sudo? Okay, so I guess it requires sudo to add. I guess it requires sudo for me to use user add. Okay, perfect. I can use user add. So let me add a user and then I'll explain everything. So let me view what user do I have in here. Teddy. I have Teddy, so let's create Stanley in this system. Before we do that, let's view what is inside of the scale directory in here. Same thing, there's nothing in here. If I do LA, oh, this is a little bit too big. Okay, perfect. We have a bunch of hidden files. We have a .dat profile, bash rc, bash logout, etc. These are hidden. So when I create Stanley, these will get automatically included. So I don't want to make his directory boring. So let me include some couple of things in here. Let's do sudo sudo s dash sudo dash s. Let's do mkd. Let's give them a desktop, documents, pictures, downloads. Perfect. Now let's go inside of his same thing, document folder. Let's do touch. We're gonna put a policy in there. Gedit policy. We're gonna keep it simple. I'm just gonna say welcome. That's it. Save. Close. Let me clear the screen. I don't need to be in sudo. I can use, okay. So now let's create him. Let's go back. Let's do sudo user add -m -s. Let's give him bin bash. Let's put him in the group. Nope, We don't need to add him in any group because I don't think that group exists. Let's put a comment in there. Let's do Stanley C, and then the username. I'm gonna call him Stanley C. So with this one, it's not this one is not interactive, so we didn't get any prompt or anything like that. So we need to create a password for him. Let's do sudo Stanley C. Let's give him a password. Perfect. So now let's visit his home. Let me go back into being sudo. That's the city home. Stanley C ls. As you can see, all the directory that I created in the scale directory are included in his. I'm not gonna show you guys the file inside of his document because it should be there, so I'm just gonna do ls-copy to all. It's gonna let us know the file is in there. So if you see inside of the directory folder, policies included. Policies included. So now let's go back to go over the option. So the -m create his home directory for him, which is what is not included, but that's which will be cd home Stanley C. There's no -d, but we do have a -s, which give him his default shell. So if I do, let me okay, and then G, I didn't add him to G because I don't think there's a developers group created in the system, so that probably would have given me an error. I put a comment for him, so let me exit, let me do @c pwd. So I put a comment for Stanley, which is this is the comment, Stanley C, and then I set a password for him. So with user add, sometimes it doesn't create by default it does not create a home directory for you, so you have to specify the M for that to happen, which I did. So this is consistent across all distro, Debian, Red Hat. I do have a Red Hat, but I'm not gonna go over that, to be honest. In here it's probably gonna take too long for me to do all of this demo in all three distro. So now let's move to creating a user with a custom UID and a group ID. Which way we can do that with the sudo group add the flag GID. So I'm gonna create a third user. So let me create a group first. Sudo group add GID. Let's give that 2000 dev team. Now let me do cat so there you go. So dev team is there and with a GID of 2000. Clear. So now let's add another user. We're gonna do sudo user add m to give him a home directory, -u to give him a custom UID. So meaning if I don't give him a custom UID, it will follow the same one. I think let me quickly view the @c pwd one. So it will follow the same format for the new user. Mine UID is 1000, Stanley is 1001. So if I don't specify a custom UID, it will be 1002. So I don't want that to happen, so let me go and give them a custom UID. Sudo user add -m -u. We're gonna give this one 1505 G. We're gonna add them to the dev group 2000 S. Give them a bash, which is bash G, to add them to a secondary. -G is secondary supplement group. We're gonna make this user part of sudo dev team again, meaning like, so let me explain. Well, let me explain afterward. -C for comment, same thing. We're gonna do, let's create Alice admin. Let's make Alice admin in the system. And then the last thing is the username. We're gonna call it Alice. Let me see, user, what did I do? Sudo user. Let me see what sudo user add mu -G. It said user group. Which let's see. Oh, okay, let me see something. Is this because of this space? Oh my god, Linux, because of the space. Okay, the space was causing the issue. So now Alice is created. Let me set a password for Alice. All my users always get the same password. Perfect. So now if I view the passwd, as you can see, this is Alice. As you can see, Alice UID is different from the rest. It's 1505 versus 1000, 1001, and then the group is also different. It will be 1002, 1002 for both of them. So this is the Alice account. So what's happening with the comment that I use? Group add will create a group with a specific GID, which is 2000. We'll create the group first, because if we didn't create the group first and then we run the second comment, it will have told us that the group does not exist. And then we add the user. So user add u, which is gonna assign the user a custom UID, which is 1505. The G is gonna, the lowercase g will make the dev team Alice primary group, meaning every time Alice creates a subteam, they will be part of the dev team because that's Alice primary group. And then the capital G, these are supplementary, these are secondary group for Alice, meaning like Alice will still get access to whatever is being shared with those group as well. Like Alice now is part of the sudo team and dev team. I know dev team is redundant, but it needs to be that way, because even though we make dev team primary, we still need to add it as a secondary. So let's say there are other people on the system and they share things with the dev team, Alice will be able to be part of that as well. The -m create Alice home directory, as set the shell, and then we add a comment. Not necessary, but it let people know Alice is an admin, and then I set the password. So why use custom UID and GID? It's good if we're migrating user from another system, sync identity across multiple servers, and enforcing predictable access control. So why including dev team in both lowercase j and capital J? Because with lowercase, that is the primary group, that is the default ownership for creating files. So anything Alice created will be part of the dev team. Like I mentioned, the capital, which is supplementary group, access to share resource, meaning anyone else that is part of the share of the dev team, Alice will be part of those as well. So that's why we include both, even though it may seem redundant. So if I didn't include it, what would happen? Alice would still be part of the dev team as primary, but wouldn't list as a member in the Etsy group. And some tools and script may fail to recognize her group membership. Yada yada. I already went over this, so I'm not gonna go over this again because I already show you guys what happened when you put something into the skeleton directory for new users, because it acts like a template. Anything you put in there is gonna get copied into the user home directory. So I'm not gonna go over this. Let's keep it going. So user add is the same thing. I went over this a little bit with the system wide default. So the file Etsy default user add define the default parameter when creating user with the user add command. So let me talk a bit much about this. So I did show you guys use so let me do sudo user add dash capital D. So this is what is being active for anyone that is being created. So this is getting pulled from this file if uncommented, but as you guys can see, everything in there was commented. So for example, I can customize this and then it will get added inside of this file. So example of output, which is the same thing as here. So for example, let's make this change. Let's make this change. I don't know if it's gonna take place because I don't think we have a S or V dash users, but we're gonna give it a try. User add DB S or V users. Let's see if that's gonna allow me to do it. I'm not sure. Okay, it did. So now let's view. Let's go into Etsy default. I think that's it. User add. Sudo Debian. What is happening? Etsy default user add. Boop, 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 boop. So as you can see, this get included in here because I create this. So this update the default home directory based to S or V user. So users will be placed under S or V user username. So let's put that into action. Let me create a user again. Let's do sudo user add -m -m then bash. I'm not gonna add a comment. -c. Oops, what did I do? Let's add Teddy number 2, Teddy C number 2, Teddy C2. Okay, so let's give him a password. WD Teddy C2. So now let's see Teddy C2 home directory. Let's go cd -home list wd cd let me see something. What just happened? What just happened? Wait, I think I got confused a little bit. Let's go all the way back. Did I just, oh, I see what happened though. I created S or V directory in the root directory, so that's why it's not inside of a home. So now the new user I created is not gonna be found in here, but it's gonna get file, let's do .srv list. So now that's where users, it's gonna be users, cd users, ls. Now this is what 36 is gonna be. Look, this is a lot of directory just to find one user, ls. And then because I update the scale directory, if I do ls dash capital R, policy is gonna be inside of every user that I created, even though I created it inside of srv users 30c. That was stupid, but let's wipe that out. Let's remove him. Let's do user, let's do user del. srv users. Is that even a command? Let's do user del. Let's do sudo. Oh, actually, let me see. Boop, 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 boop. Let's quickly do something here. These are the comments that I use. Let's see, what else do I need to do? Did that get rid of him here? Yes. Did that get rid of his home directory as well? Nope, it didn't. It's still there. So let's do sudo rm-rf. Now if I go to srv, it should not be here. See, let's do sudo rm-rf srv. Okay, srv is no longer exists. Perfect. Hopefully I didn't mess up my system. So this is how you can edit the user add, and when you edit it, so when we use the user add command, whatever is inside of that file get implemented to the new user. So I'm not gonna do all of these because I already went through this separately with you guys. So but to understand what some of these are, let's do user add dash capital D. Oops. So default group will be in this range. This will be the home directory of any user being created, which would be srv users, and then the home directory inactive, meaning the password will never get expired. Same thing with account expiration. Account will never get expired, and then login initial setup. Login initiate is yes. Not really sure what that means. So why all of this matters? Because if we edit the scale directory and the user add, when we're creating user into our system, it will be consistent across for everybody. So that is one of the main reason when we edit those directory and file, it's important because we want everything to stay consistency and efficient, and then we able to control the behavior of users. So if something bad happened, that we know who to go after. So now let's move to changing and editing users, which we use the command usermod for that. That is one way we get to edit, remove, and do all of the good stuff to user account. So for example, let me check out which user do I have in my system. Stainless C. Let's do sudo usermod -l and then let's give him Stanley C. That's what we have in the system, right? I believe. Nope, that's not quite right. Oopsie, let's do password. Now, as you can see, I just changed the name, but the thing is, with this command, it does not change. It does not rename the home directory. It does not update file ownership, and you must do all of that manually. So as you can see, his home directory is still the same. It's just that his login name just changed from Stanley C to Stan C. That's one way we can do things. So to change the home directory to his new name, we can do sudo usermod the -d command, and then we're gonna do home. We have Stan. What are we changing it to? Oh, Stainless C. That's what this is. Stan C. Oops. Hopefully I did this correct, because the comment that the example I use is messed up, to be honest. Stan C. User mode, no change in graphic. So let's do in reverse. So let's do Stanley C to Stan C. Stanley C does not exist. Oh, let me see something. What happened when I do sudo usermod -d Stanley C M Stan C? Is that correct? Usermod, no change happened. But if I do it in reverse, it's gonna say Stanley does not exist anymore. It's gonna say usermod user Stanley. Let's see. Let me do well, I can also remove it. I can also rename it here, since I'm having a hard time. Remove it. I can do mv. Let me do sudo. There you go. That's one way to get the job done. Since usermod, I'm having a hard time changing it. Let me see if it also changed over here. Usermod would have been way better, to be honest, but shadow. Let me see. Or sudo. Okay, it's all okay. Change over here. Stan C. So the home directory was the only thing left behind. Even though that's what I was doing, I don't know why. The D is the set the new path and moving existing file from old to new. The old was Stainless C, and then the new would have been home Stan C, but it wasn't working. So I'm not sure what was going on over there. So we can use the usermod -s to change the default shell for, I guess, let's do Alice. Let's do sudo usermod -s. Let's give her the Z shell. Alice, I think Alice is in the system. Usermod -s. Z shell. Let me see something. Am I in bash? Yes, I'm bash. Exit. Can I use sh? Okay, I can use sh. Let's try that. Let's exit. Let's do this again. Let's give Alice the sh shell. Let's see. Perfect. Now Alice shell is gonna be, let's log in as Alice. Sudo. So there you go. You see now, because I changed Alice shell, now I log in as Alice. You don't see nothing. You just see a $sign because that's the shell that I assigned Alice to. So if I exit, let's do the same thing again. Let's give Alice the bash shell. Oops. Let's give Alice bash. Now let's log in as Alice again. Sudo Alice. Oops. Password. As you can see now, because Alice is using the default shell, which is bash, now we can see Alice at dbn. That's the difference if we're using different shell. I don't know why Z shell, maybe Z, wait, is Z shell is in the system? Cat shells. Oh, Z shell is not even here. That's why it's not work. That's why it wasn't working, because just Z shell is not one of the shell that is exist in the system. Can I download the sudo app? Get Z it. Can I download that? Actually, I can. Oh well. Oops, now I wish I didn't, because that's probably gonna take a long time. Well, in the meantime, we can read our notes. So we can also add people to secondary group, which we call supplementary groups. That's what they are. Anything that is not primary are considered to be supplementary group. So I don't think I have a lot of groups to go to do this. I'll have to create a lot of groups. So let's do this again. Let's exit. Let's see what the Z shell look like if we do this again. Z shell Z sh. Now let's log in as Alice. Oh, I never used the Z shell before. This is quite interesting. Well, there you go. This is what the Z shell look like. ls Alice. All the documents are there. Everything is there. You know, let's exit out. Let's put everything. Let's give Alice the normal shell bash clear. Okay, let's move to groups. Add to supplementary groups. So if I do cat etc group, I only have the dev team, to be honest. I could create another group, to be honest, to make this a bit more interactive. Okay, let's create another group so I can do this. Let's create a dev app group. Let's do group. Let's do sudo clear sudo group add gid 2025. Oops, 2025, and then we're gonna call it dev apps. Perfect. So now, so when we using the user mod to add people to supplementary groups, it's always best to use the A with the G, because if we do not use the A, it will replace all the primary groups, and that can mess up the system. So now let's add Alice to that group. We can do sudo usermod A G. I think I call it DevOps. Yep, DevOps. And now we need to give it the name of the user that we doing that to, Alice. Perfect. Now Alice is part of the, is it groups? Is it group Alice? Is it groups Alice? There you go. So now this is all the group that Alice are part of. Dev team, which is the primary, sudo and dev app or secondary. So now if I didn't include the A and I use the user mod dash G by itself, it probably will have removed all the other groups, that was there. So always use AG unless you intend to overwrite anything that was previously in there. Okay, we can use the lowercase j to change primary groups. So now let's say we want dev apps to be Alice primary groups. We can use sudo usermod g. Now we're gonna do dev apps Alice. So now dev team is no longer Alice primary group, is gonna be dev app. So if I do groups Alice, now as you can see, dev apps is first, sudo second, dev team is last. So now dev app is primary. So that is one way to change the primary group. And then we use A and J to add user to secondary group. Is the same thing with UID. We can change user ID with the U. Let's see WD. Okay, let's change Stancy UID. Let's give him 2026. We can do sudo usermod -u 2026 Stancy. So now if we do this pwd, now his UID is 2026. So this is a little bit on the more experience side of things, because when we change UID, it does not update anywhere else in the system. So we have to do that ourselves, so everything can recognize the new user ID. So one way to do that is by simply run this command. I have not go over find yet, which I'm probably gonna create a video on. So because I changed Stancy user ID, I need to make sure it also changed everywhere else in the system. So I'm gonna do sudo find. The find command is used to find folder directory in the system. I'm gonna search the whole system. I'm gonna search root. I'm gonna use the user flag UID, which is gonna search anything in the system. Oh, I need to remember what was the old oh man, that is very interesting. Well, that sucks because to be honest, I did not remember what was the previous UID was, so it's not gonna. I'm not gonna be able to change it though. 2020. Oh, it was 101. All right. So it was 101. Okay. So sudo. So it was 101. So I'm gonna do sudo. Let me clear the screen. So I'm gonna do sudo find. I'm gonna search the whole system. UID, the old one, which is 1101, and then we're gonna do exec, which is a command being used. We're gonna do ch on, and this is gonna be the new ID, which is 2025, and then plus. So what is taking place right now? Sudo is gonna run with the admin privilege, find, searching from 0 at the top of the chain, which is the root directory. We're matching anything with the old user ID, and then the exec command gonna change ownership to new user ID, and even with symlink, and that's something I didn't go over yet. Symlink, what is symlink and how do they function in Linux? So if I press enter, let it do its magic. Well, look at that, bunch of user deny. Let me let this finish. I don't want to mess it up in the middle. Okay, so let's do sudo s. Let's do the same thing again and see if we're gonna get the same result. Permission denied. Okay, I see. This doesn't have the 101 UID. Okay. These are different. These are 1000. Okay. So this is one way to change all the file from the old one to the new one. What else do I have in store for you guys when it comes to user? Let's go down. Okay, I'm not gonna go over this. I think this is group management. I already went over how to add how to add groups into the system. I'm sure. Let me go up. I mean, I did went over this at the very beginning, how to change the password for the passwd and the shadow. We can use these two commands, vi pwd and vi gr. So that's why I'm just gonna pass by it because it's good to know, but I don't think you're gonna be using it to change pass pwd in any system unless you wanna experiment and mess things up. But okay, I already went over how to add groups with custom GID from the jump. We can do that with the group ID. So with specific GID we can use that. I already went over that. How to add, I already show you guys how to add user to groups, primary and secondary. So user add AG will add Bob to supplementary groups without erasing previous group. And then the A, I never went over G password. That's because that's rarely used to add password to groups, but it's good to know. You can use the G pass WD with the A to add Bob to Etsy group entry for the dev team. Both of these are valid to add people to groups. remove. Oh, I never actually went over sudo how to remove people from groups. So let me exit. Let me do this one. Let me look at the Etsy groups again and see what groups that I want to remove Alice from, because I don't think I want Alice to be nope, that's not it. Groups, Alice. Yeah, I don't think I want Alice to be part of the sudo group no more. I think Alice is gonna mess things up for us. So let's do sudo g pwd -d Alice, and then we're gonna remove Alice from sudo. So now Alice is no longer gonna be part of the sudo group. So if I check Alice groups, sudo is no longer there. So now Alice is just part of the dev apps group and then the dev team group. There you go. That is one way to add people and remove people to groups. So now let's view group information. Group dev team. So I mean, this is one way to look at it, but now when we use get it group dev team, it only show us only the dev team section, but it's the same thing if I were to do this groups, oops, group with one. It's the same thing if I were to do this. It's kind of the same thing. This one shows us all the groups, and this command just gonna show us that specific group information. So pretty much the same thing. Choose whichever one you want. So let's move to rename group from rename from all names. So now I no longer want it to be dev team, I want it to be dev teams. Let's do sudo group mod n dev teams dev team. So now if I do this group, as you can see, oh, I name it dev t. Let's do teams. What did I? Ooh. Now let's take a look at groups. Now it's no longer dev team, now it's dev teams. So there you go. Usermod can do a lot of things. I think I would dedicate a whole video on the main page, because with the main page you can really find a lot of information for command. So usermod. So if you do that, it will let us know. A is to append, add the user to the supplementary group, use only with the J option. So all of these options that I'm showing you guys how to use, the flag, the main page, which is the manual page, have a lot of information to use. So with the G, which is the group, no, so you can like user password, unlike user password. So that's so that is one way to find out what you can do with certain commands. So if I do sudo main sudo, it let me know some flag that I can use, things that I can use. So the main page is very useful to find out what you can use with certain command. I think that's why I'm gonna stop this video. We do have a way to lock account, which is very simple. I will left this to you guys. I'm not gonna do any demo, but I'm just gonna quickly go over them. So to lock a user account, you can use the sudo passwd with the -l to lock a user account. I'm just gonna show you guys that. So if I do main passwd, there will be a flag L in here somewhere. that would let us know that's how we lock. There you go, lock the dash L. So there it is. It gives us what it does and where to use it. So like the password of the name account, this option disable a password by changing it to a value which match no possible encrypted value. So this is one way we can lock our user account, and this is how to disable an account with the dash I. So to unlock an account, we can use the dash U. So if we keep scrolling down, so there you go. So that's why I said the main page is very important. You can find a lot of useful information in here. So unlock the password of the name account. This option would enable a password by changing the password back to its previous value. So this one I did not go over this one, so I'm probably gonna go over this one because I think this one is important. So let's do is this charge L? So we can use the chage command to set maximum days of password before password expired. We can set expiration date to get warning before your password expired. So we can set a specific date here for password to be expired, and we can do all of that with the chage command. So for example, let's say I want Alice password to expire 2020 December 31st 2025. Let's do that. We can do sudo chage dash capital E 2025 12. So this is the format that I'm using. It's the year, it's over here, it's year, month, and date. So December, and then 31st Alice. So now when that date come, the Alice account will poof expired, and she won't be able to use that account no more. So one way we can remove user account from the system with the user del -o, which will remove the user from passwd, shadow, and groups. Let me see which user I can remove to do a demo shutdown. Let's remove stanc. Let's do sudo user del -o stanc. What did I do? Stanc. Sudo user del stanc is there, no? Let me see. etc. I'm not sure what's going on. Okay, so stanc is no longer there. I can verify that with groups as well. Stanc is, well, Stanley C is there, but stanc is not there. I need to remove that as well. Let's do shadow. Oops. Let's do shadow. Oops, not sudo. Stanc is not there, so the only place stanc exists is in groups. So let's go back. Let's do sudo. But if I do user del, it's gonna tell me user. Well, now let's put the main page to use. There's the main page group add. Let's see how we can delete a group. User. Okay, so there you go. We can use group del to remove a user. So let's use that. Sudo group del. I think that was 10. Let's see. So now let's do cat etc group. So there you go. stainless C is no longer here. So this is one way we can remove user from our system with the user del-or. I think they all stand for recursive, or delete home directory and mail spool. So it removes the user from the passwd, shadow, and group. I'm not gonna go over this, the sudo. I'm not gonna go over that. This is the last thing I'm gonna go over, and then this is gonna be it for you guys. I don't want to give you guys too much information at once, so let me see. I'm just gonna skip ahead. Okay, let's move to managing password aging with the chage command. So if I do sudo chage-alice, it will let me know all the Alice password settings. So last password change was September 28, 2025. Password is never gonna expire. Password inactive, never. I did set her account to expire on December 31st, and this number is so big that, yeah, I don't know, number of days of warning before PI expire, these two never gonna take place, but we can change these. So let's make this a little bit more readable. We can use sudo chage-M max password age 90 days, meaning after 90 days password will get expired. We can do lowercase m, minimum days between password change. So before you can change your password into the system, you have to wait 7 days. So if you change your password on Monday, you cannot change it on Tuesday. You have to wait 7 days before you can do that. Let's do 7, and then let's do, we're gonna give the user 14 days warning before password expired. Now we can do Alice. So now if we do sudo charge Alice, and now this is much better now than 7, whatever that number is. So now last password change over here, the password will expire December 27. December 27, that's when the password expired. The password inactive, never. The password is never gonna go active unless I make it inactive. Maximum number of days between password change, like I mentioned, 7. Maximum days of days between password change would be 90 days, and then 14 days, and then to get a warning before your password expired. So why does this matter? Well, it enforces regular password rotation, prevent premature change or reuse of password, and warn users before lockout. I did went over this, the log and def. So if I go back into this file, we should see a couple of change in there. Yep. So let's see. Let me see. Let me go all the way at the top. Okay, now let's scroll down slowly. Okay, well, I guess the change that we make with the chage does not automatically change the setting in here, because I don't see that the setting that I change in here. Everything still stay the same. but I guess the change that I'm making here will change globally. Okay, well, this file is also another way you can change those password setting. Okay, I think that's it for now, because I'm not gonna go over sudo privilege. I'm not gonna go over any of these stuff with you guys. Actually, I'm not gonna do a demo, but I can quickly go over them. So section 9 is for sudo and privilege access. So like I did show you guys, you can add people to groups. So if I add someone into the sudo group, they automatically get admin privilege. But there is also another way we can give people admin right. We can edit the sudo as file. Let me quickly go in there so you guys can see what is in there. And if I do cat etc sudo as, okay, so there you go. In here is where we can give people specific admin privilege. Right now, the only user that have all access is the root user. So let's say I wanted to add let's do sudo v sudo. Let's say I wanted to give Teddy C full admin privilege. I can give him that. I can go here, I can do Teddy C I can do all I'm not, and then I'm not gonna do that one. I'm gonna do, oops, I'm gonna make Teddy C different. I'm gonna do all parentheses and then no password. So what is that gonna do for us is that every time I run things that require sudo password, it's not gonna ask for it. So for example, if I do sudo dash the shadow, the shadow file we usually require sudo and then password to view it. So if I do sudo cat etc shadow, as you can see, I can view it without it require me to input my password. That's what me putting no password all mean. But it's not a good thing, because it's always good for you to get us to put your password, because it leave a trail, and then we can also give people specific things that they can use. So for example, let's say I want Alice to use the bin system ctl bin and junior ctc without a password. So I can specify that here. So when she run the user bin system ctl or user bin journal ctl, no password is gonna require on her part, so she can just run these with no password included. So this is the end of the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know this is a very long video. There was a lot of information. So if you guys enjoyed this video, you guys can also watch this and also look at the notes, because the notes are very clear. They explain everything. So the next video I'm gonna go over is not gonna be as long as this one, because I think this one is an overkill, if I'm being honest, but it was necessary. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and hope this one helped you guys in your Linux journey. Until next time, bye bye.